Welcome to Rooted in God's Love, the masterclass series for Christian women who desire to feel the Father's unconditional love, get grounded in their true identity in Him, and courageously pursue their God-given purpose. My name's Alana. I'm your host, and I use biblical principles and cognitive behavioral therapy to help women get really rooted and grounded in who they are in Christ, heal their past wounds, and wake up joyful every day living in their kingdom purpose. And I am so excited to introduce you to Tim and Sandy Redmond. Sandy and Tim have been married for 32 years. They've raised 4 children, above average children, mind you. And in the midst of all of this, they had plenty of reasons to have terminated this marriage along their journey. The lessons they've learned and applied in decision-making, respect, and principles of connecting have helped them overcome dividing challenges and lead them to be more in love and in a place of enjoying each other more than ever before in their marriage. They look forward to sharing these invaluable lessons with you in this masterclass series. Welcome, Tim and Sandy. I am so excited to have you here.
Yeah, so good to be here.
Great.
Thanks for inviting us. Yeah. Good.
So today we're going to be talking about these painful and powerful lessons that can lead to a happy marriage, which is such an amazing topic because I think marriage is not always easy, right? And that's an understatement in a lot of marriages. And before we dive into this powerful topic, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your story of having difficulties in your marriage and what was really at the root of you being able to overcome them to be where you're at in your marriage today.
Yeah, great question. We want to tie this into your overall theme of having a closer relationship with God. The relationship you have with your spouse directly affects your relationship with God. And but we were very happily married, had a huge wedding, started having kids fairly early in our marriage. And everything seemed to be going pretty good. And until we started making some major, really, I would say the major financial investments is where things began to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the businessman. I was the entrepreneur. I was the one growing businesses. I was a CPA. I had all this great background. And so I had the answer. And I came to Sandy. It was a question, but it was really more, I need you to approve my idea. Not, this is my idea. I need you to approve it. I need you to love it. I need you to embrace it. Not, what is your feedback? And that created a number of impasses and some difficulties. Sandy, I strong-armed her, I disrespected her and brought her into decisions, and she says, okay, I approve, meaning more of a compliance and a commitment. And I have probably about 1.5 million reasons why I should have listened to my wife and gained her perspective. And that's how I define respect. Respect is really valuing the differences and looking at the differences not as a distraction or an obstacle, but rather a expanded wisdom to help make better decisions. I don't know if you have any feedback on that.
Well, I think that's his perspective, which
go.
I'm very grateful because, he's being very open and honest on some of the struggles that we had. And so I'm very blessed to have a man that would do that. Most men don't want to admit their faults, which is okay. That's the way a man is wired. But I think, first of all, why did you have 1.5 million reasons?
Well, that's okay. So she's gonna make me even come further here.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I'm gonna make you dig a hole a little deeper, and then I'll share my.
We're gonna be like the priest in the dark room, and we're making our confessional here. We lost about $1.5 million on various investments, And
And several of them I just did not feel good about at all, but realized, if he wants to do this, I just have to release him to do it.
Yeah, there was much interaction, intense interaction. There's tears. There's, why don't you value my perspective? And well, I'm the expert, and so I know better. And the disrespect cost me $1.5 million in various investments. And the respect that I learned, that the her different perspective was for my good, not for my irritation, distraction, and obstacle. And I looked at it wrongly. And when you despise a gift that God gives you, you rob yourself of the power that that gift is supposed to bring into your life. And 1 + 1 = 11, not just two. It's one will put 1,000 to flight, two will put 10,000 to flight. And so I just did not see that. I was very obsessed with my own opinion and did not value her huge perspective that now we do things a lot differently.
Yeah, and that's amazing that you eventually got to this point where you obviously started to shift and see her perspective. So how did humility play into all of this?
Well, okay, so now it's 2 against 1 here. Not that I'm paranoid here. No.
I want to share my side too, because
Yeah.
I definitely did some things wrong myself. And I think, I always say, I have a mentor that's been played a huge role in my life. She always said I was a great wife, and I had great qualities of being a great wife until I got married. And I always felt like I was that way too. I always thought, oh my goodness, I am going to be such a great wife, and going to be so helpful, and all the things that you think you're going to be when you get married. And didn't realize in that desire to be helpful and to support, I was being very controlling. And in the control, anytime you have fear, it generally shows up with wanting to control. And so I just thought I was being helpful, but honestly, I was being controlling toward him, wanting to help him make decisions and do things the way I thought he should and the way I thought he should show up, even to the point of things that he wore. He'd walk out and I'd be like, you're wearing that? Thinking, I'm being helpful because I want him to present himself in the best light, but not understanding that that is not what a man needs. A man needs respect. And so I think some of that pushback from him, even during those times where basically what happened is he helped grow a software company. It sold. And so we were investing quite a bit of the money in various things. Some of them seemed, really solid, but I just had a check in my spirit. But instead of really expressing my concerns in a way that inspired, I did it more in a very critical nature, and really putting him down. And so there was a lot of pushback in our marriage.
A lot of resistance.
A lot of resistance. I had a lot of resentment, and he resisted me a lot because he sensed that resistance and resentment that I had. And so I feel like there was just a lot of, it wasn't like our marriage was horrible, but I just knew in my heart that things could be a whole lot better. So it's interesting because then we started having some issues with some of our kids. And to me, it's not like your kids are their own people. They're going to make decisions. They're going to make mistakes. But a couple of things I was like, I kind of took a step back and I said, I wonder if this is just their reaction toward what's going on between us. And so it just really made me stop and do some introspection I can't talk today. Uh, just look inward and just really realize, we need to get help. So here, I drag him to a marriage counselor. I don't know too many guys that like to go to marriage counseling. I mean, here you are bringing your husband. Most of the time, it's us women who bring our men to the marriage counseling. And then we're sitting in front of the marriage counselor telling him everything that's wrong with our husband. What man wants that? you know?
I can't wait for the next meeting.
Yeah. Exciting. Yeah. So you go to the counselor and you're obviously telling this counselor all the things that Tim is doing and maybe what he gets to change in his life. But what happened inside you? Like, what did you realize about yourself through the counseling?
Well, once again, I was trying to make him implement the various things that the counselor was suggesting that we do. And Tim is a great man. So, and I've just been so blessed to have.
Really?
Yeah, tell me more.
I think I showed you last night what I gave you.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
now that's its own story. Alana, we've got to cover what happened last night. We had our anniversary, 32 years.
Yesterday.
And
Happy
so
anniversary.
we left out in a restaurant, and I just about, I'm more level-headed and logical, but I just almost got unglued emotionally, just sort of crying for everybody. So, but anyways, we'll get to that here in a little bit.
So anyway, so it just really still caused a lot of resistance from him, because here I'm still trying to help him. Tim, I'm trying to help our marriage. I'm trying to help us get better. And really what I'm saying is I need you to get better so that we have a better marriage. You just need to change. If you just change, then things would get better. And it was through a process of really hitting a wall and coming to the end of myself that I thought, this isn't working. And I just really started doing research and reading quite a few books. And I came across this book called The Empowered Wife by Laura Doyle. And she teaches the 7 skills, or really the 6 skills to intimacy. And it was mind-boggling for me. Here I am, someone, avid reader, a very relationship-oriented person, wanting love. And really, as women, we are the relationship experts in a marriage. And so, and it really took going through that process that I realized I can't change him. The only person I can change is myself. Mm-hmm. And what do I want to change in me? How do I want to show up better in our marriage? And so, to make a long story short, it's been over a few year process of really some internal work that I did to really show up better for me and our marriage. That I learned, first of all, the number one thing a man needs is respect, and I wasn't giving Tim the respect that he really needed. Respect is like oxygen to a man. Respect is so important. I was keeping track of everything he did wrong. I was critical. I would let him know. I mean, to the point of, honey, don't cut it that way. You need to cut it this way. And, oh, honey, those don't go there. These go here. And, well, no wonder you do that all day long. And no one wants to be treated like that. I wouldn't want him doing that to me. And so I realized I was the one that was causing a lot of the resisting in our marriage. He was just reacting to the way I was showing up. And so,
yeah, I had an awesome mother, but I didn't need another one.
Yes,
that's the way I felt.
Yeah.
And, it was, my management philosophy, and I've grown a lot of companies, and I'm in the business of helping people turn their business around and grow it, where they can live their God-given purpose. So it's focused on who does the job and let them determine how it's done. And so when I would be micromanaged on this, it would just even go against my approach of growing businesses. And but I realized I had my own stuff to deal with, which was strong arming my way through without really valuing the difference that she brought. That difference was the difference that would help us make better decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You
so
know,
interesting too, because of your perspectives. You know, you're looking at the same situation, but from totally different perspectives, and you're not able to see each other's perspectives. And I think that's probably one of the biggest issues in a lot of marriages. And Sandy, I wanted to ask you too, right? You got to this point where you understood what was going on inside you. You had this control that was coming up, and you know, from this place of fear. And if women are watching right now and they're thinking, oh my goodness, like I can totally see myself in her story, I think I'm the same way, what would you tell them to do if they're discovering that about themselves?
Well, I think for me, I had to learn how to trust. I had to, first of all, part of learning how to trust was learning to take care of myself. Because of my nature, I'm the oldest of 5 kids. I started working for my dad when I was 13 years old. He had his own business. By 21, I was helping to run his company, and he had a nonprofit, and I was managing and running that, and hiring and firing at 22 years old, 50-year-olds. And so I was a strong individual, and I had very strong in my opinion on things. But all that to say is I was always working, giving, and then you had 4 kids, and I'm organized, and I was just going, and I had never learned to take care of me.
this is key.
And and one of the things I knew I needed to do was self-care. And that word even used to make my skin crawl, because I thought self-care was very selfish. And I was about give. But what happened is I showed up depleted constantly. I was tired, I was worn out, I was aggravated. I felt like Tim never helped me. So number one was I really started implementing self-care in my life, and self-care showing up in just the little things every day. And even now I try and do 3 things in the day that bring me a tremendous amount of joy, and frivolous or fun.
Like
or,
what are some things you've done?
okay, so
This is
and I
now
have
we're
to
getting
plan
really
it. I have to
interesting
plan
for
it.
the
Well, one of
ladies.
the things I did was I took on tennis. Never had played in an organized sport, never had done that, but athletic. I took care of myself, but never had done that. And oh my gosh, it brings me so much joy. But I used to feel so guilty driving to the tennis courts to meet with my team and the coaches. For probably a year, I would think, oh, I need to get this done, I need to get that done. But I learned to just let things go. And then calling a girlfriend in the middle of the day, going to Starbucks and sitting outside and just drinking my flat white latte. It's like and just taking it, not just grabbing it and drinking it and running, but just taking a few minutes to savor it. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. But I realized I needed to fill myself up in order to have something to get out. And I'd never seen that before. I just thought you gave. So that was number one. Number two is I started keeping a list every day of evidence of Tim's love for me. All the things Tim did for me that showed how much he loved me. And I was shocked.
So was I. Without knowing what it was, I had a different wife. It was awesome. It was awesome. The self-care and then this other secret list thing here transformed our marriage. And I was more watching it and enjoying the participation, but it was really, I like to initiate, but she initiated a lot of this relational management changes by her own investment in herself. It was awesome. So
Wow.
How did that change, Tim? How did that change your way of relating to her, just in her own shifts personally, just for her own self-care? She was showing up differently. How did that change the way you related to her?
Well, we weren't. There wasn't like a competitiveness. there was a real collaboration. It was like when I saw that she invested in herself, and a lot of times I wake up really early and get the coffee going. But I'd see her out here like every morning after I take a shower, or whether, or sometimes even before me, she's out here pouring into the Word of God, or just having time of prayer and journalizing, or going through some of her studies. It warmed my heart knowing that she was investing in herself, and it was like I couldn't explain it because I'm a guy and I'm mostly clueless, but it was like she had energy and reservoir, and she started the day from a place of abundance and not inadequacy and depletion. And I felt it from her. It was it was complimentary, and first several times I didn't trust this, like, what does she want from me? So, but it just kept up, and it was like, wow, okay, I this is this is pretty good. And not question everything I do and my decisions, and more supportive of it. I'm like, you know what's going on here? But it opened me up to be free to be who I wanted to be, which was a blessing to her. um, but it just gave me more freedom to do that. It was almost like her work she did internally freed me up to in my pursuit of her. So I don't know if that's tangible enough.
And
Yeah.
that's very true. I mean, in keeping this list, I would just be amazed because I didn't know. I didn't know how much he just, all the little things. I was just keeping track of all the little things that he did for me to make me happy. Because men are wired to make us happy. They truly are. It's in their wiring. It's they want us to be happy. And so when I started recognizing it and seeing it and tracking it and thanking him for it, it was like, wow, I was overcome by his love. I mean, it just brings tears to my eyes right now. It was like I had no idea how many little things he was doing throughout the day just to bring me joy and to make me happy. And so it shifted my focus off all the things he was doing wrong to all the things he was doing right. And who doesn't like being around that? Really?
Oh, yeah. And it sounds like you were very focused, like he said, on abundance. And I'm picking up like gratitude. You were in a place of gratitude a lot of the time. And I'm curious because at first you were controlling things, and it was always like, if I control things and I'll get what I want. But all of a sudden you chose to let go. And it looks like, from my experience, that you got more than you could have asked or imagined when you chose to let go. Is that right?
It, completely. In fact, over the 3-year period, this last 3 years, that I've really been focusing on the internal work. For me, it's Tim's business has grown 1,000%. Is that not crazy?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I love that.
And
Yeah.
I'm appreciating those strengths in him, where before he's he's a great leader, he's very decisive, and he allows people in his team to make decisions, and he loves mentoring his team and growing them. But I used to resent that. I used to push back against that. I was like, why are you doing that? I questioned so much of what he did. And when I took my hands off and let him be who he is and called to be, things started really taking off.
That's amazing. And it sounds to me too like you were spending more time in God's word. And so how did spending time in his word and being rooted in him affect your ability to show up differently in your marriage?
Well, it really kept. Well, I spend a lot of time in God's word and also just in my study of the 6 intimacy skills. And I just what this is what's very interesting. As I have done this work, I have more. I don't know how to even describe it. A deeper relationship. I even feel like with the Lord. He's just very, very precious, and I'm seeing all the things God is doing in my life. on a daily basis too. And I'm seeing how much he loves me. I just get overwhelmed by his love for me. And I always knew that, been raised in church since I was a little girl, heard it, but it wasn't real for me. Does that make sense? It was like I knew it in my head, but now I know it in my heart.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the biggest questions for a lot of women is how do I bring the head knowledge down to my heart so I can actually feel his love and then love myself and then love others as well with that. And that's such a powerful statement. And then I'm so curious because you kind of left us hanging with this story last night of your anniversary. So I want to go back to that. Tim, are you going to tell us more about that?
Uh, I find myself very emotional right now because Sandy took the time to write down these things, and I'm not aware
Things
of it.
being everything, evidence of his love for me.
Yeah. And last night, anniversary, and we went to
Our favorite restaurant.
one of our favorite restaurants. Your favorite restaurant.
Yeah, it's true.
Mine.
Thank you.
See,
he wants to make me happy. He takes me to my favorite.
And so, we exchanged gifts, and I got her a little pearl necklace that matched with something I got her on Valentine's. And I'm even my gift giving, I'm just actually more wanting to do that. So much the gift giving that I would give would be like judged or evaluated, and I know she'll go and get what she really wants. So I started checking out on that, and not that she wasn't grateful, but just here it's like now I'm more engaged, and she actually likes what I'm getting her. And that's an aside. But and when she gave me her gift, she had printed out all that she had written down starting on December the 7th of last year. It was 57 pages of
evidence of his love for me.
Yeah, so I looked at that, and I was just much like I'm feeling right now, I was just overwhelmed, and it deeply touched me. And
were you surprised by anything that she put on the list?
I haven't gone through all of its 57 pages. We got home and we had more important things to do than read a book. More discussion.
Yes, of course.
Just doing my part on that. But I did read a few pages on it, and almost every day it's like he went and he prepared the cup of coffee and served me with a cup of coffee, and it was like almost every day on that. But there were some other things. There were some things that were a surprise, and again, it was just reading through that was just very emotional. It was, it's like he connected with my heart. I do want to make her happy, and she realizes I can't make her happy, but we can make life more fun for each other. And even some of the things I wanted to do, she wrote it down as something I did, that she really, really showed her love. So just her connecting with those attempts, put value in it. And it was like I felt understood and appreciated. And I'm a hard driver, and I don't always give myself a pat on the back. It's like, that's great. What's next? And it was just deeply emotional and healing last night just to have that where it was like a whole big notebook, and it was just amazing. So
yeah, it just goes to show her putting in that effort of something that just came naturally to you, right, Sandy, just to write down the things you were grateful for, the ways that he was showing you his love. the impact it had on him, just writing those things down was, it seems like it was a very powerful impact and really filled him up.
It was. And it didn't always come natural. When I first started, there were still things that I would wake up some mornings and I'd be bothered or upset about things. But I just was determined I was going to look at the good and not the bad. And so I would just stop and have to think. Sometimes I'd really have to stretch because I'd be like, oh gosh, and then I'd be, no, I saw, he did this, or he made this phone call for me, or he ran to the grocery store and picked up my favorite ice cream, or he and I just would, and it would change my heart every time.
Yeah, see, feelings follow focus.
Mm.
And not knowing, she would tell me a little bit of what she would do, but I could tell when she shifted her focus. And when she was interacting with me, I didn't feel constrained judgment, like, I don't want to judge you, but I still am judging you. You're not measuring up. And women they're advanced. I mean, you guys emotionally can just run circles around most men. And I'm trying to get in touch with my sensitive self. Okay. I would hear my wife tell me the man she needed. And I said, you don't want a man, you want another woman. Sensitive and intuitive and knowing all this. You're describing yourself. But through her doing the work and seeing her walk closer with the Lord and her relationship, and really learning to lay down this scepter of power called control, and purposely shifting her focus. Again, your feelings follow your focus. That she began to project a real sincerity in her feelings towards me, and I felt it. And it was transformational.
Yeah, that's so amazing too, because it's just such a great lesson that when we choose to focus on something different, when we just shift our focus a little bit, it can change our feelings, it can change our experience of life and our perspective on the people around us. And I think that's such a valuable lesson for so many women. And thank you so much for sharing that. And you know what I love when you talk about real life marriage? It's like you two are so authentic, and I love that experience of you, because I feel like this audio series is just going to be an extension of your authenticity and just really laying it out on the table, like you said, where some people might be afraid to share those parts. I feel like you two would just want to give back that way and really share the real stuff, which is so beautiful. And so if you were going to leave our audience with one last piece of advice or an actionable step, what would that be?
I'll leave that to you, Sandy.
I think don't give up. First of all, there were many times over 32 years that I felt like giving up, but I'd look at the options and I would go, why? And where, what else would I have? Number two would be gracious and forgive. And three would be live a life of gratitude.
Beautiful. And Tim, did you have any last words?
No, yeah, I want to emphasize that gratitude is just, it helps make you more attractive. You don't repulse people, you behave better. It gives you a distinct advantage over people who are not grateful. And leaders don't just tell the way, they show the way. And with your gratitude, you actually free other people up and invite them to live a life of gratitude. It's just an awesome way to live. So.
Yeah, such powerful words. Thank you so much. And I am so grateful that you were able to come on today and share your wisdom and your experience and your insights with our audience. So thank you so much. And those of you tuning in, be sure to catch the next masterclass on being deeply rooted in God's love. Bye.
Bye-bye. See ya.
Yeah. Very good.
Thank you for watching. If you connected with this content and it helped you in some way, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Also, check the description below for special gifts just for you. See you in the next video.